So this is a little bit of guild raid content. It's obviously not going to be a mechanical raid team guide because, well, look at the boss, but it's something I found quite interesting, a way to give a bit of consistency to your fights against Cawl, if you have a similar sort of team to mine. Now you'll see here I'm using my very decrepit, not very good multi-hit team. I've got gold 2 She's pretty awful. Ragnar, his active ability, shockingly bad. So I'm not expecting a great deal out of this team. Only 2 of my characters can really deal any great amount of damage to the boss, and that's Cawl and Ragnar. So this strategy was mostly focused around getting high ground consistently for those 2, and using my other characters to direct the boss's movement. And that is the key point here, is with the Biovore, it is actually quite possible to direct the boss's movement to where you want him to go. Now, what I'm going to be exploiting to make him move to where I want is his Arc Scourge ability. So if you look at the description of it, it attacks an enemy unit within 2 hexes is the first part. That's important because it's an active ability. It doesn't have the ranged attack tag. It's not a normal ranged attack, so it's not affected by him being in melee with a character or summon from your team. So in a normal range attack, it can only be performed if there's nothing in melee. That's not the case with this ability. He can hit something 2 hexes away with it, even if you have him completely surrounded by summons. It works in the same way as Mortarian's Plague Wind in this respect. Now, his movement is decided by whether he can hit something with this ability, and I'll just explain that here. So, move my troops into their positions. So that's everything set for my positioning at the moment. Now he has the ability Solar Beam, Solar Atomizer, sorry. Thinking about Pokemon. So with this ability it works kind of like the Avatar of Kain's Wailing Doom Strikes, where he tries to encompass as many things within the area of effect of the ability as possible. So if he's got a movement of 3, so he can move down to here, sort of in anywhere down in this area, or over here with his movement. So if he were to try and maximize the number of targets he could hit with this ability, what he'd do is move somewhere over, like here, say, cast it down to the south so that he hits all 3 of Golgorts, Ragnar, and Aunshi. But what you'll see in this replay is that he instead moves to this position, casts it to the south, so that it's only encompassing Aunshi and Eldron. So if you're fighting the Avatar of Kain, and it was following its AI, obviously it wouldn't do this. You'd expect it to do, as I said, move over here and then encompass these 3 characters. Now the reason for this is that if Cawl has a character or summon within range that he can hit with the Arc Scourge ability, he has to use the ability to hit it. So because I've put Cawl here, and Cawl, if Cawl moves over to this hex, so he's sort of covering this little area, Cawl can use the Arc Scourge ability to hit Cawl when Cawl is in this position, so he is forced, therefore, by his AI to move into this position and hit Cawl. He can't hit anything else with the Arc Scourge, so that's the only place he can go. And because he's forced to move here, he then casts Solar Beam to the south, and that's why it doesn't cover the maximum number of targets possible. It does cover the maximum number of targets possible when he's in this position, but not if he was completely free to move around. So that's what happens. And this Spore Mine, I've just put it here so that the Electro Priest is the only ad that can hit this mine, and therefore he'll be distracted down here and he won't suppress any of my characters, because I need a lot of movement on Ragnar, and I obviously don't want his damage debuffed either. Now I'm not recommending this team at all, but when it comes to multi-hit with me, I just have to work with what I've got. Like I said, they're not very great. I don't have the Forge Fiend. Well, I do have the Forge Fiend, but his active ability is at level 14, so that's basically useless at clearing out any boss summons. So the best idea for me was to use the Biovore and try and bait the boss around, which is, I think, what I managed to do quite well. But for now, I'm just baiting the boss's movement with the position of Cawl here. Now I'm going to let everything play out. So, Ragnar is 6 hexes away from the high ground, but he's got the movement boost from Aunshi. I'm going to make him Warhowl twice, and then boost him with War, which will give him even more extra damage, 600-ish. And it'll also give him enough movement to get onto this high ground hex to then hit Cawl. And I'm hoping that with the War as well. Boss Golgorts, I'm going to target this Tech Priest Engine Seer with him. As far as I'm aware, with War, Golgorts just takes the shortest path available to the target. So, as long as an Orc Boy isn't spawned here, Boss will just move on to this hex and then melee this Engine Seer. If you try and target Cawl with the ability, Boss, he won't move over to this hex because that's a 4 hex path, whereas he can take a 3 hex path to this position. So he'll just stand in front of the Solar Atomizer and get destroyed by it. So to prevent that, I instead make sure to get rid of this annoying ad. And then the boys, because this Electro Priest is resilient, a single one of them attacking it isn't enough to kill it, so they both get distracted by it, and it keeps them well out of the way of the Solar Atomizer. So there is a bit of room for error for this. If a boy spawns here, a boss might potentially move over to here to melee the Engine Seer, but luckily for me that doesn't happen. Anyway, it's not too important at the moment, so just play that out. Get Eldryon into position, and now of course I've got the question of where to put the Spore Mine. Now, what I've found through my attacks on Cawl is that if you put a Spore Mine on its own, he can be distracted by it, but it's not 100% a given that he'll be distracted by it. Also, if you spawn it within range 2 of him, then he can just hit it with Arc Scourge and then move wherever he wants. And the annoying thing about Cawl is that his movement seems kind of randomized. It's not predictable. I hate it when bosses aren't predictable, so I do whatever I can to make them act predictably. And what I found with the Spore Mines is that if I put them next to a character, there's basically a 100% chance, at least as far as I've found so far. You know, I haven't done a great deal of testing, but it seems quite promising. He will always go for that Spore Mine, and then he just seems to like to be able to chain link extra damage onto a character standing next to it. Now, of course, if you're trying to direct his movement, there's no point, again, as I said, spawning the Spore Mine at range 2 from him, because he can just hit it with the Arc Scourge and then move wherever he wants. So what you want to do is spawn it 3, 4 or 5 hexes away from him, so that he is forced to pursue it, use his movement, there's one movement that he gets per turn to pursue it, and then attack it with the Arc Scourge, and then he is forced to stay still after that to then use his second ability. And by careful placement of the Spore Mine, you can direct exactly where he goes. So right here, I've got Eldryon over here, and spawning the Spore Mine at a 3 hex range from Cawl seems to be the best bet, because if you're spawning it at 4 or 5 hex range, you're probably not going to have a character that you can put it next to that's being very useful, because you've got melee characters, so obviously they're not going to be that far away from the boss. Boss Golgorts maybe, Aunshi maybe, if you're trying to sort of move him up the field and get him back into the fight. But Eldryon, he has a 2 hex range. You'll be wanting to keep him 2 hexes away from the boss, so he's a perfect candidate to have the Spore Mine next to. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the Spore Mine here. Now, because Cawl is over here, and putting Spore Mine there, it will put the Spore Mine will be at range 3 from him, so it will force him to either move into this area, or this area to hit him. I want him to move over here, or over here, so that he's able to be hit from the high ground. Again, like I said earlier, I only have 2 characters that can really deal damage to him, which are Cawl and Ragnar, so as long as I have 2 high ground hexes next to him that are available to hit him from, I'm pretty happy. So I'm going to try and direct his movement now, which I'll do with So he didn't move over into this area or this area. It seems like he might do that usual boss thing where they try to minimize the amount that they move in order to hit the target they want to hit. But again, due to the randomness of his movement, I'm not entirely sure if that's a thing. So that's just a bit of conjecture from me for now that needs more testing, but that might be another way of determining how he moves. But I'm still pretty happy in this situation because he's next to the high ground, and I want to take care of this engine sear with Cawl, so I don't really mind that Cawl can't get high ground attack damage bonus against the boss for now. But I definitely have it with Ragnar, so that's good. Now again, what I'm going to be doing is moving, I think, Eldryon here, and then I'm going to be putting a Spore Mine here. So again, with the Spore Mine here and Eldryon next to it, that will encourage him to attack the Spore Mine, but he can't attack it from his current position. So what he'll have to do is, well, he can't move anywhere sort of around this way, because his movement stat is too low. The only place he can move is so that he's in this position, and then he can attack the Spore Mine from 2 range, and that will leave him adjacent to 4 high ground hexes for me to attack him from, which again, I'm very happy with. So I've just used Boss and Aon Shi to direct his movement there and stop him from being able to move over here instead, and minimize his exposure to high ground. So now I can, because Eldryon is the best candidate for putting a Spore Mine next to, I'm going to continue baiting him with Eldryon. So next up for me is to put Eldryon onto this hex and put a Spore Mine next to him here. And I'm going to try and bait him so that he's sort of in this area with where Boss G is, and then this barbed wire, and then the southeast hex of his model. So what I'm going to do is put Ragnar where Cawl currently is, so that when he moves, he will break contact with Ragnar, so Ragnar can get the extra hits from his passive when he hits him in the next turn. But again, this turn, I'm still getting high ground damage from both Cawl and Ragnar, so happy with that. So as you can see here, he could move onto this area. But again, I was gambling on him not moving too far, unless he really had to. And he didn't, so that worked out well for me. Also, I think because he was going to, I thought he was going to spawn summons in that turn, so he wouldn't want to be in this area because that would maybe block them from spawning in. I'm not sure if you can really do that. Block them from spawning like you can with Zarek's death marks, but could be something again to consider. But I haven't had enough experience with this boss, as I said, to really draw any major conclusions. The main thing I just want to show for now is this baiting of Spore Mines technique. Let's get the Doom bonus on him. And then I can get that lovely extra damage of Ragnar. Now Ragnar, I've put him here because I'm going to be now trying to bait him over this way. I kind of ran out of space to bait him with Eldryon. And if I put a Spore Mine here, it could work. He could try and hit it from here though. So this hex, and then the hex that's the northeast part of his model. And that would mean that he wouldn't break contact with Ragnar, so I wouldn't be able to get that extra free hits from Ragnar's passive against him, which is what I really want. So I want to draw him over into this area, preferentially. So if I put a Spore Mine here, that wouldn't necessarily work. So what I'll do instead is put Boss Golgotz here, and put a Spore Mine behind him. Then I will block off this hex with Aon Shi to make sure that the only place he can hit the Spore Mine from is this area. I don't mind Boss G getting stunned because he doesn't really do a great deal of damage anyway. He's mostly there just for his war and to give the extra Orc boys to control the boss's adds and summons. It was annoying the boss getting the extra stacks of Machine Vengeance there, but I'm not sure there's really much I could do about it. But now again, last round, I have the opportunity to hit him from high ground with Aon Shi, Cawl and Ragnar. so that adds an extra 60,000-ish damage. So, you know, this isn't particularly stellar damage. I know it's possible to do way more than this with a properly built team and using Snotflogger, but, you know, none of these things are options to me. And if you're like me in the situation I'm in with my limited roster, this could be of some use to you. So hopefully this has been at least somewhat interesting, maybe enlightening. And I was pretty happy with that level of damage. That was the best damage I've done to Cawl on this map at this level so far. But yeah, that's that.